What up, world? This is the Goal Net. As you might be able to tell, I am recording live from a mystery location here. Wanted to chime in on my beloved Philadelphia Flyers, quite frankly, because it's probably the most chaotic time during my time as a fan, and being that Ron Hextall was a Flyers goalie that I used to watch, and being that he's one of the few goalie GMs in the league, thought it was kind of interesting to chime in on this. I think Hextall did a great job. I think it's completely crazy that he got fired. I do understand a lot of the rationale about declining ticket sales, unrest from the fans, and that they felt the rebuild had been given long enough process when you compare it comparatively to teams like Toronto or Tampa that were able to flip the ship and turn it around much more quickly. But at the flip side, I think maybe one more year, and it honestly isn't a bad year to really be in the puddle because I believe it's a pretty strong draft. A guy like Jack Hughes could be the difference maker on that team. And I think Hextall's approach with Carter Hart is the right one. There's so many posts all over saying start Carter Hart. If you look at his stats in the A, he's clearly growing and developing this year, and it might take him a year or two till he's fully NHL ready. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think if you look, Stolarz seems like he has some hope. Lions had great seasons in the AHL, and there's ways to get there. And the reality is that a lot of their goaltending situation issues are defensive breakdowns and injuries. It's not to say that when the Flyers get decent defense and Elliott's healthy, that they aren't getting decent goaltending. I'm by no means a huge Brian Elliott supporter, but I try and be neutral and as agnostic as I can. And I made a joke yesterday on Instagram that seeing Nylander was up on the trade market, I was like, oh boy, Paul Holmgren's going to pull the trigger while he's the GM for 2 weeks searching for a new guy. And what do we see out of TSN this morning? Reports that the Flyers are in on William Nylander. And it's my own personal opinion that he's not a difference maker for this team. They've got good forwards, they've got good wingers. It's kind of finding the right balance of line combinations and getting better, stronger, and healthier on D. So overall, I'm extremely sad to see Hextall go. If the Flyers got off to a slow start again next season, I could have seen it, but this year just seems crazy to me. And it's also interesting that Ed Snyder passed away a few years ago, and the team is basically fully controlled by Comcast, the cable company as I understand it now. And the Flyers are going to be, I think, run much more as a business moving forward and less of a passionate fan. You know, Ed Snyder was a hockey guy. He was a hockey fan, and winning to him meant everything. I think there's a reality that filling the seats and winning 1 or 2 rounds in the playoffs might be a really financially successful product for the Comcast company. And obviously winning the Stanley Cup would probably give them a huge windfall with revenues around Stanley Cup memorabilia and ticket sales for the next 2 or 3 years after. But I don't know if it's the home run that just kind of consistently having a competitive team and making the playoffs is, which is what the Flyers have been for the last 30 years. And I don't know if that's what it's going to really take to excite and spark a restless fan base. So again, I'm a huge Flyers fan. I've watched nearly every game this season, even though some of them have been quite painful. And I'm even okay keeping Hextall, There's definitely times I don't understand what's going on or the long-term vision or the strategy, but I'm also convinced he got the Flyers to the playoffs a couple times when I don't think they should have made it. So I know that there's some great coaching there, and until they have some stability in goal, and again, when I'm saying stability, it could just be Brian Elliott healthy for the 30 games in a row, and he starts 20 of them, and I think that would be a much better barometer to really where the Flyers are. When you're on your 5th goalie this deep in the season, I don't know how, you can't just pump the brakes and be realistic that, some years you just get dealt an absolute ridiculous hand. It's unfortunate. You look at Tavares getting injured in the Olympics. One of the years the Islanders were pretty competitive. That same year, I think Stamkos missed the Olympics, even though Canada won, but that's a huge piece to have missing. Like, stuff just doesn't work out sometimes. And I want to say from memory, like one of the years after the Kings won the Stanley Cup and could have been an absolute contender to repeat, Jonathan Quick went down. These things happen. It sucks. It's terrible timing. But again, I think it's a pretty decent draft this year. So I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world for the Flyers to get one more pick before they really try and right the ship. and we'll see how that goes. But anyway, just really felt the need to chime in on this as a Flyers fan and try something different. So definitely look forward to seeing everybody's contacts, and until next time.